I'm 29 male, and I've always considered myself a pretty grounded guy. Nothing flashy about me, just a regular IT consultant, saving up for the future and looking forward to settling down. I've been with my fiancée, let's call her F, for 2 years. We got engaged last summer. At the time, I thought she was everything I wanted, funny, driven, and kind. But man, was I wrong. This whole nightmare started innocently enough. I was going through my credit card statement on a random Thursday evening. Normally, I just skim through, but a few charges jumped out at me. A high-end florist, a catering service, and a boutique wedding dress shop. At first, I figured they must have been mistakes. F, and I weren't actively planning the wedding yet. In fact, we'd agreed to wait until next year. I asked her about it that night after dinner. Hey, did you use my credit card for something? There are a few weird charges here. Her face froze. Then she laughed it off, saying, oh, I must have mixed up the cards when I was out shopping for a friend's bridal shower. It sounded plausible, but something about her reaction didn't sit right. I let it slide that night, but I kept an eye on things. A week later, I noticed more charges, this time for a venue deposit and even a photographer. I confronted her again, trying to stay calm. F, this is serious. These are big charges. Are you planning something I don't know about? Her voice went shrill. Why do you always assume the worst of me? I told you it's for a friend's wedding. She's just super stressed, and I'm helping out. Something about her tone, defensive, almost panicked, raised red flags. I didn't press further right then, but I started doing some digging. That's when everything unraveled. I called the vendors directly, pretending to confirm the bookings. Each time, they mentioned her full name and her ex-fiancé's. Let's call him R. My stomach dropped. R was the guy she dated before me. She claimed he was out of the picture, just a bad memory. But now, it seemed like they were planning a wedding, using my money. I confronted her the same night, and this time, I didn't hold back. F, tell me the truth. Are you planning a wedding with R? Don't lie to me. Her face went pale, then red. She tried deflecting at first, calling me paranoid. When I told her I'd spoken to the vendors, the facade crumbled. She burst into tears, admitting everything. Okay, fine. Yes, I've been seeing her again. But it's complicated. I still love him, but I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I could figure it out before things got too far. Her words were like a slap in the face. Too far? You're literally planning a wedding with him. Using my money. She didn't even look ashamed. Well, it's not like you're broke. You wouldn't have noticed if you weren't snooping around. Besides, you'll get the money back eventually. That was the last straw. I told her to pack her things and get out of my apartment. She refused, claiming she had nowhere else to go. This is my home too, she yelled, as if she hadn't just admitted to stealing from me. The next morning, I went straight to my bank and reported the charges as fraudulent. They froze my account and flagged the transactions. Then I contacted the vendors again, explaining the situation. Most were sympathetic and canceled the bookings. But F wasn't going down quietly. She showed up at my office later that day, causing a scene in the lobby. You're ruining my life, she screamed in front of my coworkers. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? Security had to escort her out. But the damage didn't stop there. She started texting and calling non-stop, alternating between apologies and threats. One moment, she was begging me to take her back. The next, she was warning me that her would handle me if I didn't drop the fraud report. Then came the ultimate twist. 2 days later, I got a call from a mutual friend who told me F was claiming I'd been abusive and controlling. She was painting herself as the victim to anyone who would listen, saying she had to escape our relationship and that the wedding with her was her way of moving on. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't going to let her destroy my reputation on top of everything else. I gathered every shred of evidence I had. Texts, emails, the credit card statements, and even a recorded phone call where she admitted to using my money for her plans with R. Then, I went to the police. F tried to downplay her actions when they contacted her. She said it was all a misunderstanding and that she intended to pay me back. But the evidence spoke for itself. She was charged with credit card fraud and theft. The court process wasn't quick. Over the next several months, F tried every trick in the book to wriggle out of trouble. She claimed I'd given her permission to use the card. When that didn't stick, she tried blaming R, saying he'd pressured her into it. But the judge didn't buy it. She was found guilty and ordered to pay restitution for the charges, along with community service. R, predictably, dumped her as soon as things got messy. Turns out he wasn't so eager to marry someone who'd just been convicted of fraud. The fallout was messy, but in a strange way, it was also liberating. I realized how blind I'd been to F's true character. I'd ignored the little warning signs, the lies, the entitlement, because I wanted to believe in the person I thought she was. Would I ever trust someone like that again? Probably not. But at least now, I can spot the red flags. And to anyone out there thinking about pulling a stunt like F did, let me just say, karma is very, very real. After the court verdict, things didn't exactly settle down right away. F decided that if she couldn't beat me legally, she'd go for character assassination. She went on a full-blown social media rampage, posting cryptic statuses about how I ruined her life and lied to manipulate the system. She even shared photos of us during happier times, captioned with things like, "Never trust a wolf in sheep's clothing." Her attempts to frame me as the bad guy backfired spectacularly. Mutual friends started reaching out, asking for my side of the story. Once I shared the receipts, literal and figurative, most of them cut ties with her. Some even apologized for believing her lies initially. But F wasn't done. She started showing up unannounced at places she knew I frequented, bars, the gym, even my local grocery store. She'd act all nonchalant, like it was a coincidence, but her attempts to run into me were painfully obvious. At one point, she approached me in the parking lot, demanding to talk things out. I didn't take the bait. "There's nothing to talk about, F. You stole from me. We're done. Move on." That only seemed to fuel her bitterness. She got louder, calling me a coward in front of onlookers. "You think you're better than me? You're pathetic. I made one mistake, and you ruined my life over it." Security was called again. She was escorted off the property, glaring daggers at me the entire time. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. About a month after the trial ended, I got a call from R's ex-girlfriend, someone I'd never met, but who had clearly been following the chaos from a distance. Let's call her L. L told me that F's relationship with her wasn't as serious as she'd made it out to be. In fact, R had been stringing F along, using her as a rebound while trying to win L back. F had been so desperate to prove she was the one that she'd taken charge of planning the wedding herself, hoping R would eventually come around. She was delusional, L said, her voice tinged with pity. R never even proposed. He thought she was just helping him out as a friend. I almost felt sorry for F. Almost. But then L dropped another bombshell. F had been bragging to R and some of their mutual friends about how she'd outsmarted me by using my credit card. She thought I wouldn't notice. Or worse, that I'd just let it slide because I was too nice to confront her. That was the final nail in the coffin for any lingering sympathy I might have had. At this point, I was done playing defense. It was time to take control of the narrative. I compiled everything. The court documents, the receipts, even screenshots of F's public posts and her texts admitting to her actions. Then I shared my story online, anonymously, of course. I wasn't trying to embarrass her, but I wanted people to understand the full scope of what had happened. The post blew up. Thousands of people commented, sharing their outrage and disbelief. Some even shared their own stories of betrayal, which made me realize just how common these kinds of situations are. F caught wind of the post within days. She called me, screaming about how I'd ruined her reputation forever. I calmly reminded her that she'd done that herself the moment she used my credit card without permission. Her final act of desperation was to send me a letter, an actual, handwritten letter, begging for forgiveness. She claimed she'd learned her lesson and was trying to turn her life around. She even offered to make it up to me by helping me find someone new. I didn't respond. The fallout for F didn't stop there. Word spread quickly in our social circles about what she'd done. She lost her job at a small marketing firm after her boss found out about the fraud charges. Apparently, they didn't take kindly to having an employee with a criminal record handling client accounts. Her family, who had always seemed a little too enabling of her behavior, started distancing themselves as well. They'd always bailed her out of trouble before, but this time, they were fed up. R, meanwhile, ghosted her completely. He moved out of state shortly after the trial and blocked her on everything. As for me, life moved on. I took some time to focus on myself, therapy, reconnecting with old friends, and even taking up new hobbies. I wasn't in any rush to start dating again, but I knew I'd be more cautious when I eventually did. If there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that you can't ignore red flags, no matter how small they seem at first. People will show you who they really are. It's up to you to believe them. And if someone ever tries to take advantage of you, don't let them off the hook. Stand up for yourself. Fight back. Because trust me, nothing feels better than watching someone face the consequences of their own entitlement. If you enjoyed this story and want more tales of karma served cold, hit that subscribe button. Don't worry, it's free, unlike F's wedding plans.